welcome back everybody. Happy New Year to you all. This is the first Discover Wildlife evening of 2023 and we really appreciate you joining us. It's fantastic to be back and we are bringing you a whole new array of talks, taking you around the world sort of to revel in the world's wildlife and get inspiration for your future travels too, hopefully. So today we are joined by Neil Aldridge, who is a fantastic wildlife photographer. I'm sure many of you have heard of him if you haven't met him before. Neil has been working with us for about a year now, I think, and has got lots and lots of trips lined up with us. But today he'll be talking about a wonderful part of South Africa and sharing his fantastic imagery. And just before we get going, I'm just going to say at the end, I will do a poll, which will give you some sort of choices. If you'd like to fill that in, that's great. If not, then that's fine. And at any point throughout the evening, if you'd like to ask any questions at all, please do send them over. We will make some time at the end of the talk to answer those questions as well. So whatever you have for us, we'll do our best to answer them. And yes, at any point, you can send those across either on the Q&A or the chat function. So welcome, Neil. Thanks so much for joining us. I will leave you in charge, I think is probably the simplest way to do it. So enjoy everybody, and I will see you all a little later.
Thanks, Brett. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, Happy New Year, as Brett said, and to 2023, hopefully. Fingers crossed, better than 2022. Can it be worse? Well, yeah, I'm excited because I'm off in a week's time back to South Africa, back home to South Africa. It's where I grew up and it's the wildlife that I love. So this evening I'll be talking about some species that are close to my heart and some individual animals as well that are close to my heart. I'm not going to Kariega, this reserve this time on this trip, but we do have a trip lined up later this year and also next year with Wildlife Worldwide, and I'll give you some more information on that later on. But I'm really excited about the opportunity to introduce this place to well, to more people, not just yourselves tonight, but we featured it in the brochure recently as well. And it's somewhere which I discovered a few years ago, and I've been back several times. And it's just become a really important place to me and has a special place in my heart, and hopefully you'll see why after this evening. So one of the reasons why Kariega will always be important to me is actually where I took, fortunately not anymore, my most recognizable image, but for some time it was. Some of you will be looking at this thinking, wow, that was a mistake. And some of you will be thinking, wow, I love it. Probably more so the former. Anyway, it won the European Wildlife Photographer of the Year overall title in, I think, 2014. And two blessed buck running across the open plains of Kariega. And so I will always think fondly of the reserve, but also those open plains, which again I'll be showing you a little bit more of shortly. So, but I hadn't gone there to take this picture. This really was one of those things that you do after the light's gone. Try a bit of motion blur, and the light had gone for the story I was there to photograph. And the reason I went to Kariega in the first place was because of this, because the rhino poaching crisis had started to accelerate by the start of the last decade. So actually going back 10 years now, it's amazing that I first went to Kariega 10 years ago to tell the story of one particular rhino who had been attacked by poachers and managed to survive. I'm not going to go too much into her story this evening, but her name is Tandy, and I'll give a talk on Tandy during the tour actually, and there'll be the chance to hopefully spend some time with her and her calf. But Tandy was one of the lucky survivors. I say lucky, what she went through was pretty horrendous, and at the time, there were very few good news stories coming out of the world of rhinos, and her survival and the incredible work of the people around at Kariega and in the local area, the vet teams that were able to come in and work with her and carry out some absolutely groundbreaking work to save her life. It was pretty special, and to meet those people and to tell her story was, yeah, it was exciting, and it was kind of the start of a long journey for me, really. And I was lucky enough to spend a couple of weeks with her. Her face had started to heal by this stage after some like I said, revolutionary skin graft techniques. And it led through to, fortunately, what now is a much more recognizable shot, and one which I'm known for more globally, rather than the blurry antelope. But this image of mine won World Press in 2018, and as well as various other awards around the world that year. And again was part of a positive story from the world of rhinos, really. So I discovered Kariega at the start of this journey, which I didn't really realize was going to be a 5 or 6 year journey to donate and dedicate my time, my work, and my life to helping tell the world about the great work that was going on to try and save rhinos in South Africa, and in this case Botswana. And Tandy was the start of that, and Kariega was the absolute seed of that journey for me. But let's go right back to introducing you to the reserve. And you're probably aware of where Southern Africa, sort of South Africa, is in Southern Africa, and probably hopefully some of you have had the chance to visit there. I grew up in Johannesburg and lived over in Nelspruit for a little while, over near the Kruger Park. But where we're talking about this evening is further south, right down near what used to be called Port Elizabeth, a city right on the south coast. And you'll see actually in the center of the screen there is a place called Kariega. That's not where I'm talking about. If you follow the coast along just to the right of that bay there, near Kenton-on-Sea, there is a dark area, which just says there, Kariega Game Reserve. And you'll notice here, the reason I wanted to show you this slide is all those dark areas, they were sort of half that size when I first visited Kariega. The amount of work that's gone on in the Eastern Cape region to link up these conservation islands has been fantastic, and we're really seeing just how animals have responded to that, being able to move freely across this landscape. And it is a completely unique landscape because of the location within South Africa, but also because of the habitats that you get there. You've got some really interesting species, and actually Kariega itself, over 30 years, the families that have owned Kariega have rewilded 21 farms. 21 farms that they've managed to buy up and just build these blocks and dedicate it to giving a home to these iconic species. And I'm really excited to say that recently they took down fences to expand again this year into a new area, which it's been on the cards for as long as I can remember, to really, they see it as one of the last pieces of the great puzzle in the area in terms of linking up some key areas for them. And that's also allowing them to introduce cheetah to this to the reserve as well. Cheetah, as you all know, as with many of Africa's iconic species, are under threat, and to be able to make Kariega a home for cheetah as well is exciting from a conservation point of view, but of course also from visiting and from a photographic point of view as well. So there's some exciting things happening there. But like I said, this is, really is the reward for 30 odd years of hard work from the families who own and run Kariega, and it really does have that family run feel to it, which is again one of the reasons why I love going back, is just the welcoming atmosphere, the real sort of family feel amongst the guiding team. Just going away from Kariega for a second, in terms of any trip to this reserve as well, it's perfect for a bolt on to other places in South Africa. So some of you might have already been to Cape Town, but if you've not, the the botany and just the diversity around the Table Mountain park is stunning. The array of proteas and other species just attracts a huge amount of bird life as well, and insect life that's very, very unique in the region. Some of you might also love penguins. It's a great place to go and get close to these endangered African penguins. Some of you might like getting really close to great white sharks. That is actually a full frame picture of the throat of a great white shark. You can just see the teeth coming into the top of the frame there. Don't know, that's basically the inside of its cheeks. Yes, I was that close. Probably won't be doing it again. Might not be on everyone's bucket list, but I'm glad I did it once. I'm not great on boats either, so I'll just be sticking to Kariega when we go back later this year. And just the like I was saying, that location in the Eastern Cape, it's so unique for these what we call Eastern Cape thickets, and you can see how thick that bush is there. Just the unique habitat that we have there is home to species like the Narina trogon, and like this, the what I call the Nysna luri, Nysna turco, and some other incredible birds. And down on the plains below, you've got things like the orange-throated longclaw. So it's great for birding. And up on these rolling hills, you've got these euphorbia trees, which are just wonderful for some birds and other things. So on every trip, I just enjoy doing some birding, even if it's not a case of getting photographs. I just love being somewhere new, because it's a very, very, very different feel to that sort of bushveld and sort of desert birding and obviously habitat. It's this sort of coastal thick bush on these rolling hills, and just has all kinds of unique species that are really worth finding. And we will spend some time not just on vehicles but on foot and on boats on this trip looking for some of these species. These thick, well, like I call them thickets, this thick bush on the rolling hills, they're home not just to obviously an incredible array of birds, but also they allow species like bush pigs, leopards, all other mammals as well to take refuge and to find shelter. The weather can in the winter get quite cold and wet and windy, but also shelter from predators and shelter from the sun in the summer. The black rhino on the reserve there, I mean, the black rhino on Kariega is stunning. You can see that they've still got their horns. These animals are just some of the most incredible rhinos I've ever had the pleasure of seeing, and they're really hard to find. I mean, we tracked one that we knew was in probably a 20 square meter patch of bush, and we just couldn't see it. But I followed in on foot behind white rhino into those thickets, and amazing that an animal that size can disappear in such thick bush. And the elephants move through as well. You're always surprising when you're going for a walk and you're ducking under low branches, and you realize that actually the elephants come along here. You're seeing their tracks as well. So that bush isn't just there for birds and bush pigs and nocturnal life that comes out onto the plains at night. All these big species, they're all there, and they're all using it for refuge. It's just about finding them, tracking them, and of course sometimes a little bit of luck as well. One of the most exciting species, that I think draws me back to Kariega time and again, is the crowned eagle. I've been fortunate enough to see it a couple of times elsewhere, but really Kariega is one of the best places to see it. We know where a few nest sites are as well. You can see the size of the talons there. This is the African equivalent of the harpy eagle. And like I said, we know where there are a few sites where they raise their young as well, and we'll be hoping to find them Depending on of course which sites they're using, it might be the opportunity as well to get out on foot. But again, that will depend on the group. It will depend on the birds themselves as well. But they're a real draw for me. And if anyone's ever been lucky enough to see a harpy eagle in South America, you know, this for me is, yeah, you're talking about a bird that takes monkeys off the top of trees and can take young antelope. You know, seriously powerful. And that thick bush where these crowned eagles live, it's not just fantastic for them. I think photographically, it provides the most incredible backdrop as well. These rolling hills that come up behind the plains, I love it when they fall into shadow and you can just drop the subjects in front of them. These animals on the plains just look great with this out of focus background, I feel, and it's somewhere where, depending on the time of day, you'll just get a different feel, you know, different colors, and yeah, somewhere I just never tire of enjoying photographing at Kariega. And like I said, animals of all sizes going through that thick bush there, and it's not, you know, this isn't a forest. These aren't tall trees, so you've got giraffes moving through. Like I said, elephants, etc. as well. But down on the plains, there's all of the common plains game, plains wildlife, and what you'll pick up with the pictures here as well is just the proximity, how close you can get to these animals. It's just one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken of a zebra, taken down by a small stream right in the middle of the plains. Zebra are a key species there in terms of managing those plains, but also prey for animals like leopards and lions. It is what we call a Big Five reserve. Leopard are hard to see, black rhino are hard to see, but I have seen black rhino on most of my visits. The leopards in the Eastern Cape, just purely because of the history of the area as well, with going back to sort of the farming times of these reserves. You know, they've been persecuted in the past. I mean, they've got areas where they can take refuge, like that thick bush. You know, they are more secretive than what you would expect in like the Southern Kariega Park, for example, but they are still there, and they are catching them on occasionally at night on camera traps, etc. But they are harder to see. But things like, you know, buffalo, yeah, again, we're just getting really wonderfully close to the herds. And again, these are really important for those lions. And it's not just the big things. And yeah, we'll be certainly on the trip, we'll be looking for the opportunity to photograph the smaller things as well. And even smaller than this, I'm not just talking about tortoises, I'm talking about chameleons and, you know, well, other macro subjects, favorite macro subjects, flowers, insects, etc. But down on the plains, you've got the opportunity to watch the things like black-backed jackal, hunting, and similar to the first picture that I showed you with the blessbuck running, it's somewhere I love trying the motion blur technique. It's a technique I quite enjoy as a photographer anyway. But I find Kariega is actually a great place to be able to try this, because those plains are very open. And as soon as that light goes, as soon as the sun drops behind those hills, or you've got low light like this, I just think it's just interesting and fun technique to try. And of course, not every picture works, but you might get one that's a really special shot. And you know, who knows whether it ends up winning an award, or it might just be one that you want for your own album or for your own wall. But yeah, these plains are home to all kinds of species, and look at the size of this eland. And again, you don't really see these animals as much up in the Kariega area. They're sort of more towards the western side, and sort of the drier regions further north. So coming down into the Eastern Cape, eland are more at home here. Look at the size of that bull; he's absolutely huge. And you know, so you'll see some more pictures of eland later on. But the Rare Mammals of the Eastern Cape trip that we've put together is hoping to find, you know, all of these species and more. We're looking at 9 nights, and with a real focus on the rarer mammals. And yes, of course, you've got those special big five species like lions, etc., which will form part of our part of our trip and what we'll be looking for on a daily basis. And we will spend time photographing, again, the more common species, hopefully spend time out of the vehicle, on foot, photographing the macro species, birds in flight, all of those things. But the real focus here, of course, is the caracal and as well pangolin, aardvark, etc. So the trip is up on the website. Please do go and have a look. It's a trip on which I will be joined by my wife, Sophie Stafford. Sophie was the editor of BBC Wildlife magazine for nearly 10 years. And we've traveled extensively together. She's pretty much an Africa specialist as well, and has done a lot of work in Botswana with Rhino Conservation Botswana, the charity, and was with me when we first met Tandy, and we've been back several times to Kariega since. So she knows the reserve just as well as I do, and to have her on the trip alongside me as well will just give us the opportunity to really sort of be flexible to whatever group ends up coming together and booking on the trip really as well. And it can mean that, I mean, Sophie's a photographic expert, and she can help on the photographic side, but as well at the same time, like I said, the local knowledge and knowing the reserve as well. If either anyone wants to book who's not necessarily a hardcore photographer and wants to maybe come along more for the wildlife and is interested in other things, then we've got the opportunity to split up the group between two guides who both know the reserve well, as well, of course, as having the local guide who will be driving us and hosting us, who we've worked with several times, and we absolutely love the team there. Like I said, there's a real family feel to it. So I really hope with this trip you'll feel like you're kind of joining us and joining a family on Kariega, and getting a real sort of warm welcome to a reserve that means a lot to all of us. The first destination on the reserve is a camp called Ukozi, which is above those plains that I was talking about, and it's right up on those hills, in amongst a thicket, looking out over the section of the reserve where the rhinos tend to hang out, where Tandy tends to live. And when you wake up in the mornings, you're just given this kind of view with the sun breaking through that low cloud. It's not uncommon to find baboons and vervet monkeys enjoying the view with you and warming up in the treetops early on, where they've been snoozing for the night away from predators on the ground. And this shot gives you a bit of an idea of just how open those plains are and why it works so well for photography. Just there's no well, there's very little sort of messy foregrounds and backgrounds. You've just got this wonderful backdrop that you can drop out of focus and get some wonderful clear photographs. But for viewing and finding wildlife, it's incredible as well. This guy here is actually Dr. William Folds. Anyone who's followed rhino conservation in the last 15 years might have come across him. Some of you might have even had the chance to go to some talks that he's given, but he lives not far from there and is part of the team that has really sort of saved Tandy and Kariega's rhinos during that time. And we were lucky enough to spend some time with him. But I just thought this picture probably gives the best idea in terms of scale of just those wonderful open plains. And you really get the best of both worlds there with those thick hillsides. And just lovely clean open plains where these rhinos live, where hopefully we'll be able to spend some time with some calves who are still hanging out with their mothers. And Tandy, who I mentioned early on as well, she's gone on and had several calves now. And I think the great success about her survival, it's not just the fact she survived the attack from poachers, it's that she's gone on to actually contribute to the future of her species. And I think that's why she's there as an animal, just really to ensure that she, as a breeding female, is furthering, you know, the population of this white rhino species that has been just under threat so many times throughout in the last century, and she's played her part, and I think that's all credit to the team there as well. And it's an amazing story, and one which I hope to share more with you if you choose to travel with us over the next couple of years. And the white-necked ravens as well are great down here. They hang around with these buffalo, hitch a ride on their backs. Of course, it's not just the ravens as well. You've got oxpeckers, and like I said, these birds hanging out with the plains game that are down on the open areas below Okosi Lodge, where we'll start our trip. Ostrich are pretty common on the reserve as well, and we'll definitely have the chance to get close to them. But of course, also they look fantastic in those wide open environments. And one of the other birds of prey alongside the crowned eagle is the jackal buzzard, one of my absolute favorites as well. And this is a bird that uses those hillsides to perch on, but then hunts out over those plains. So I pretty much say we will guarantee to see them. And I just think they're one of the prettiest birds of prey in that part of South Africa. But here we go, the star of the show, one of the just one of the most captivating, one of the most beautiful animals on the planet, I think anyway. Maybe I'm biased, but I just think they're stunning. Just colors of the eyes, the colors also you'll see later on as well, the backs of the ears. It's not just the tips of the ears, they've got that blue on the back of the ears as well. First time I ever saw a caracal, it was a moment like this. It was actually up in the Kruger Park, and I didn't even bother lifting my camera because there was a fleeting moment like this where the caracal had walked across in front of me and turned around and looked. And you look at those facial markings, I thought, I don't want to mess around with settings. I don't want to miss this moment. I just want to capture this in my mind, and I'll always remember it. This was my second caracal sighting ever, and it was I don't think it was quite our first day on Kariega, but it was pretty close to it. It was quite early on. We'd spent the evening with Tandy, followed her across the plains and then up onto a hillside, and then we came across a mother caracal with two quite large kittens who were heading out to hunt, and spent probably a good half an hour with them. And what's gutting for me is from that first visit, one of the hard drives that I copied all the drives on all the big images onto, because it was a long trip and I needed to back pictures up, one of the drives went down. So I've actually lost quite a few images and video clips as well. But fortunately, some of them have survived. And fortunately as well, they're all in here. But yeah, it's not guaranteed you're going to see caracal at Kariega, but I would say, for me, it's the one place I've been where if I had to say to anyone, okay, if you want to see caracal for the first time, or you want to spend some time with them, if you want to have a real chance of photographing them, then I'd say the Eastern Cape is the place to go. And Kariega gives you that opportunity. It's not like Addo National Park, which is nearby, just down the road, where you can't drive off-road. Here, if we see them, we can follow them. Given that they're not gone into that thick bush, but we can follow across the plains and sensitively spend some time with them. And I've seen them on every visit. Sometimes you're seeing them twice a day. Sometimes you'll go for 2 or 3 or 4 days without seeing them at all. They are a cat. They are wild. They're elusive. But even if you just get a brief sighting of one, wow, man, it's really worth it. Moving on from Okosi and from that eastern section where we start the trip, we move into the central south section of the reserve. This is River Lodge, imaginatively named, of course. As you can see, this isn't my picture. I've just stolen this from Kariega because I haven't put a drone up there, of course. But I just wanted to give you an idea of the setting and the wonderful setting of River Lodge. And here you're not just tied to river activities. Of course, we can still drive. We will still go and do walks and drives while we spend 3 nights at River Lodge. But the great thing about this position, you can see there with the boats, and just walk straight out of the lodge onto a boat. And there's about 22 kilometers, 20-kilometer stretch of open river, navigable open river on the Bushman's River. I think it's the second longest navigable river in South Africa. And as you can see, it's not a massive river. It's not huge. It's not like the Limpopo, which is in flood at the moment, which is massive. But from here, we can get all the way down to the beach. And actually, during a boat trip, you'll see the habitat change and you'll see the species that come with that. There's a real opportunity to photograph birds as we go, water birds. 6 species of kingfisher at Kariega. We've got the half-collared, which this is actually, I think it's probably the only picture I've ever got of a half-collared kingfisher, and pretty happy with it. And of course, birds like the pied kingfisher, malachite kingfisher. We've also got the giant and the brown-hooded. Fish eagles, of course, are just using that river and one of the most iconic birds. Not to be sniffed at in terms of spending some time hoping to catch them hunting, but when they call as well, and when you've got 2 birds here in this shot, but when they're calling, they call mid-flight, they'll call from a perch together. They're beautiful to watch, and they're just stunning birds. And hopefully we'll get the chance to spend some time with them while we're staying at River Lodge. And as we travel along the river on these boat trips as well, you've got the mammals which are in that thick riverine vegetation. Nyala, for example, they're one of the species that they're not quite living on the open plains, but they like that thicker area around the rivers. They are my favorite antelope, and you can see why. They're just stunning. They're sort of between a bushbuck and a kudu in size, if you haven't seen them. But they're beautiful. These males have the most incredible facial markings and on their flanks as well. Also get the chance to see the elephants, which come down to the river. Often the herds have got youngsters, and you really can get super close. Like I was saying early on, the proximity, the opportunity to get really close to all of these animals at Kariega is pretty special and quite unique. And then really moving on to what I would say is the sort of the jewel in the crown of Kariega is Settler's Drift, which is still set near the river, but is set a little bit higher up and actually overlooking one of the various plains on the reserve. So you've got the opportunity to take boats from here, but mainly we'll be going out on those plains for walks and for drives, day and night. But Settler's Drift is stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's very special to us for a number of reasons, but one of which is because before the lodge was even built, on those plains right in front of the camp is where I took that photograph of the galloping blessbuck pair, which went on to win the European Wildlife Tour for the year. So this specific part of the reserve has always been special to me, and now there's just this incredible lodge which we've come to love so much. And all of the places we're staying are just beautiful in terms of not just locations, but really special and looked after really well by the staff there. I was talking about elephants a second ago and proximity, and this is taken with a GoPro hanging off the side of the vehicle, just to give you an idea of again, how close these elephants come and how comfortable they are as well with the vehicles. I think the GoPro, it came up saying it was a 3mm lens, I think. So it gives you an idea if that's a 3mm lens, that's only from me to the computer away from the front of the camera. And they're just happy eating and digging up roots on the plains and going about their business. So often a long lens is a bit too much. So definitely, if you're thinking of coming, pack the wide angle as well, because you'll need it. And not often you get the chance to do shots like this, a dung beetle's view of, I guess, dinner to come. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. When an elephant's almost too close for a long lens, what do? Well, you just have a bit of fun. But yeah, the open plains down in front of Settler's Drift, like I was talking about, I think one of the most special things there is the light. When it comes up the valley in the evenings, you just have the opportunity to really backlight some of the species as well and drop them against those dark hills. And yeah, I think it's a pretty special place from a lighting perspective as a photographer. And you'll see what I mean here. I mentioned eland earlier on, and again, one of my favorite images, probably my favorite image of an eland that I've ever taken, and just in that evening light. Similarly, but this is actually early morning light as well. And yeah, that background I've not darkened that. That's as is. That's sort of walking out from very thick dark bush, which has still not had the light come onto it. And that's the beauty, is you get these wonderful contrasts that allow you to capture these moments in low evening and morning light. But yeah, we'll spend time with the lions there. And we'll spend time with them during the day, but also we'll go looking for them at night. And the beauty of Kariega is we've got the flexibility, like I said, not just to walk, but to go out at night. And that's where, that's where some of these species that we're looking for, really come out and start doing their thing. And then sometimes it's lions, well, not in this case, of course. As you can see, this male has had his fill and he's not really doing very much. But yeah, a lot of the time we'll catch up with lions hunting, but we will be in the evenings looking for caracal. I've always found them in early morning and sort of late evening, late afternoon, in that sort of crepuscular period. And of course, then we're looking for the nighttime birds. So spotted eagle owls, we really should see a good number of spotted eagle owls. They perch up on these acacia trees in the middle of the plains and hunt from there. But it's not just the spotted eagle owls. You've got other owls there as well. Barred owl, it's a good location also for wood owl. If you haven't seen those, if you like your birds, it's a good spot for finding owls. What we'll be looking for on the plains, and what we definitely should find as well, is porcupine. We'll be looking during the day because we're there for a long enough period of time to just decide what we want to do on the reserve. We can go out walking and look for where porcupines are denning in burrows, and those burrows, sometimes they might be home to porcupine, they might be home to aardvark, they might be home to hyena, and jackal and other species. So we will have the opportunity to get out on foot. We're not just going to hope to trip over them at night as well. We will go out looking for them, looking for the tracks, learning about them. And like I said, this, for me, it's not a photographic trip as such. Yes, photography is a big part of it for me and my enjoyment of Kariega, but I guess I just hope that whichever group of people we're lucky enough to travel with there, I guess we can get out of it what we bring to it as a group as well. And if you want to go and learn more about these rare species, then we can get out and go and find their tracks, find where they live, and maybe go back and visit later on. Spring hare as well, another, I just find them completely bizarre, random species, but they're all over the plains at night, and great to see. But this is one of the things that we're hoping to see. The aardvark, which is from my last trip there. Spent a good couple of minutes with him as he was going through the plains. Like I said, on that open plain below Settler's Drift, which is why I said it's such a great place to end the trip. But we'll have the opportunity to go on those plains throughout the 9 nights that we're there. And this is also what we're hoping to see. This is one of those kittens I was talking about earlier. You can just see sort of still quite fluffy. And I was talking about the blue on the back of the ears. Look at the colors on the backs of those ears. I mean, they're just incredible privilege to spend time with them and to follow them as they go out hunting. And that's really what this trip is about, is finding those species that you don't often get the chance to see, that you won't have the opportunity in places like Kariega to follow them. And they're here in much bigger numbers than there are when you're up in places like in Botswana, for example, as well. And the thick bush on the hillside that I talked about right at the beginning, it gives them that the ability to breed successfully, and then to come out onto the plains, and then we'll be there to explore on foot, by vehicle, day, night, get out on the rivers as well. And I just think it's such a rich reserve. It's a diverse reserve, but also it's rich in terms of opportunity to explore it. And I hope what I've been able to do this evening is give you a little bit of an introduction as to why I find it exciting. It's an important conservation point of view in South Africa in terms of the work that's been done there with rhinos. It's going to be an important home for cheetah in the world in the years to come. It's part of a growing section of sort of, like I said, conservation islands that are coming together, a network of reserves in the Eastern Cape, and that this is just such a great time to go and explore and discover it. And I think realistically as well, the cost of the trip is a fraction of what it would be if you were going up for the same amount of time to maybe some of your more iconic locations. So I do hope some of you will hopefully be excited by what you've seen tonight and will consider joining us. It would be an absolute pleasure to be able to introduce Kariega to you in person. But I think that's probably drawing us to a close. And what I'll do is hand back over to Brett now. And if we've got any questions, then please do shout.
Thank you so much for that, Neil. That was absolutely amazing. The images were spectacular. And, for me, that caracal is just the piece de resistance is fantastic. I love weird and wonderful mammals, particularly in Africa. So thank you so much for that. Really inspiring. And I hope it was for all of you too. So I'm just going to launch a poll. Basically, you can request an itinerary for this trip and also some of the other trips that Neil will be leading for us in the future, which I think most of them are in Botswana, I believe, and the Finland videography as well. So
I should say actually quickly, the Finland trip, by the way, is not solely video. So if you're interested in Finland as well, then feel free to consider it as well. But we will be taking photos as well as doing video on that trip. So please don't be put off. It's not just a solely filmmaking trip.
Right. Okay. And then we have a few questions that are coming in. If any of you do have any questions you want to ask, please send them to us either on the Q&A button, or alternatively, you can send it over via the chat function as well. So we've had a few questions, one of which is how do you get transported between the lodges, which is by Jackie. Okay. Probably quite a good practical question.
Sure. So I guess the easiest thing to say is when we fly in as a group, we'll be transferred from Port Elizabeth up to the reserve. And then from there, we are within one reserve the whole time. So what we would do on a morning of a transfer is go out for our morning activity, whether it's a walk or a drive, come back, enjoy breakfast, and then really to use the opportunity after breakfast to just pack up your things, and then it's just a casual drive through the reserve, really. So there's always the opportunity to have your cameras and your binoculars with you, but no, there's no flying needed. You're just popping back onto the game vehicle and doing a bit of a game drive to the next camp. Depending on location, it could be that actually we do one or two of the transfers maybe by boat because of River Lodge. Obviously, it's location on the river and Settlers Drift as well. So there might be a short boat trip as well, which is always nice for a bit of variety, especially if we've spent the morning on the vehicle. But no, we won't be leaving the reserve effectively. Hope that helps.
Yeah. Linking to that is another question, which is how many people are in a vehicle and what type of vehicles are they on safari?
Yeah, so we have, I think they're total Land Cruisers. So they're the kind of big game viewers. And I've found them absolutely ideal for photography. We will be trying to work to off the top of my head, I think it's going to be about 4 people per vehicle, I believe. I think that's what we're going for. Off the top of my head, I would need to go and check my notes. Sorry about that, but I think that's what we're looking for. We're looking to have a couple of vehicles spread across the group, and that allows obviously ease of being able to not only photograph around people and positioning and whatever else, but also gives us that flexibility, like I was saying early on. And if people want to join the trip who maybe aren't wanting to spend as long waiting for a subject photographically and might want to move on or go and do something else on a morning or an evening. Also with night drives as well, it could be, hey, I love my night drives, and I will literally be out all night. If anyone wants to join me on a several-hour night drive, then you're always welcome to go out all the time. But if someone says, look, actually, you know what, we've had a long day, we just want to go for a short drive, that's fine. And that's the ability and the beauty of having those 2 vehicles, is it means we can just mix and match and have a bit of flexibility there as well. So so it's not meaning that I'm signing everyone up to a 7-hour night drive.
Yeah, that's, I would say, probably the best way to do it isn't it, to try and sort of tick all the boxes for everyone when you can. I, like you, love ridiculously long night drives. I think people get a bit tired after a while, but it's a very, very interesting thing to do indeed. I've got another question, which is, I think you've sort of already answered it, but is this trip mostly photography focused, and how would it work for people who are interested in the wildlife, but not necessarily in intensive photo sessions? So
sure.
I think you kind of already answered it, but do you want me to do that one, or are you happy to answer it?
No, I'm happy to. No, look, the focus for this trip is not photography. What I find now is that almost everyone is bringing a camera. In some cases, sometimes people are happy just on their phone. I mean, the pictures you take on your phones are incredible, and you've seen how close you can get to some of the subjects as well. And people just want to document their holiday, and that's absolutely fine. If you're wanting to come and draw, paint, take pictures on your mobile phone, just remember it and just watch it with your eyes and binoculars and nothing else, you're very, very, very welcome. Like I said, the priority for me here is helping people to discover what I think is a beautiful part of the world and some incredible species, and that's the priority. And if you would like to do that with a camera in hand, then that's again the beauty of having 2 leaders, is that we can be flexible. If one person says, actually, you know what, I'd really like to learn a certain photographic technique, fine, I can do that and teach someone one thing, while actually the guides might take someone on a walk to go and look at plants or insects or whatever. And there is absolutely 100% the flexibility within this. Within this trip. It is not a dedicated photographic only trip.
I would also say that I lead a lot of photography tours as well. Most of our photography tours, even if they are purely dedicated to photography, actually lend themselves very well to people who are just passionate about the wildlife, because we spend a lot of time with the wildlife. So it's not I'd say most of our safaris aren't sort of a tick list adventure. They're enjoy quality moments adventure.
Yeah, and I think I did mention it earlier on, but just going over it again, we often on safari we spend a lot of time on vehicles. I like getting off on foot, not just really for the exercise, but also because you're much closer to everything. You get more of the smells, the sounds that you don't get when you're bumbling along in the back of a vehicle. And I would love to spend, a good amount of time, as much as people want, on foot as well. And we can, the itinerary in terms of while we're there is not set at all, and that can be set by the trip, by the group. We can do more walks, fewer drives, whatever, if that's what people want to do. But that's the kind of thing we can develop while we're there.
Yeah, I think that answers quite a few people's questions. We've had a few people sort of saying, how much walking is there? How difficult is the walking as well? So
sure. I mean, it's again, the walking we can be well, we can be flexible with that. You've seen the open plains. You know, we can go on a very, very, very easy walk. There are a couple of, they're not challenging. We're not going to go on any hikes. We're not taking anyone on any runs. There's no overnight, you know, take all your provisions up to the top of the mountain and back, anything like that. You know, it's all going to be, we're going to look after you. It's all going to be at your own pace. That's the thing to remember. And yeah, again, the walks can be short walks from a vehicle during a drive, or it could be that you go from camp. But yeah, there are things like I mentioned, the crowned eagle nest. I know that wasn't a long walk, but again, it might be going under a few low branches and things like that. And again, that would just be a case of, at the time, with the local guides, we would help you make a decision about, you know, whether it's the kind of thing you felt comfortable with. We're not going to make anyone do anything that they're not comfortable with at all, and there is no expectation to do anything strenuous.
I think that answers quite a few different questions from quite a few different people. So that's very helpful. Quite a specific question. Do you know, Neil, whether there are any Cape clawless otters on the river? I would imagine probably are, but they're quite elusive.
So no, you're right. I mean, yeah, they are elusive. I would have to, I mean, similarly to you, I would have to check. Bushman's River is the river that flows through the reserve. There's the Kariega River and the Bushman's River. I imagine there would be.
We could definitely find out. So.
Yeah, and if it's the kind of thing you're interested in, I mean, I love otters, absolutely adore them. Also, yeah, guarantee the guides will love them as well if they're there, and they will just be hard to see and hard to find. But the thing is, with otters, you never know. You might have a family that comes through a certain area each time, each day or every week, and you might just get lucky. You never know.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got another species-specific question. Is it realistic to see brown hyena, which is a tricky one?
I mean, I've seen them a couple of times there. Yeah, they're tough because they're a tough species to see. I mean, even places where you know that they are, they can be really, really difficult. There are easier places to see them. You know, when you get further north into and you go into some spots particularly in Namibia, for example. But they are on the reserve. Like I said, we have seen them. We are going to be looking in all the right places for them as well. And yeah, fingers crossed we'll get the chance to. I did mention it. I wouldn't have mentioned it in the, I can't remember now if it was in the trip info that's on the website or in the brochure, but I did mention it as one of those species that we have the potential of seeing. And like I said, I wouldn't have put it in there if I didn't feel like there was a chance of seeing it. Not as good a chance of seeing them as something like caracal, for example, but yeah, it's wildlife is one of those things. We might see 2, 3, 4. We might not see any.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a question from Bjorn, which I can answer quickly, which is just providing a brief summary of travel to the reserve in flights and by road. So yes, do fly overnight to South Africa from the UK. That's a traditional itinerary. To Port Elizabeth is the sort of final airport destination. And then from there, it's about a 2-hour drive, I think, to the reserve on a transfer around that.
Yeah, just under, I think. But again, that's just it's a nice, easy transfer. It's not like going north from Maun up to Kwai where you're going off road.
The roads in the Eastern Cape are pretty good, aren't they? So
yeah, it's pretty good roads. So it's pretty straightforward, and that's why I said as well, just the opportunity to bolt on other areas in South Africa as well, because it's easy to get from Port Elizabeth either before or after the trip. You can link almost anywhere in South Africa. So yeah, that's why I think it's a great trip to sort of consider adding a few days on one end.
Be a perfect sort of point to do the garden route or something like that as well.
Absolutely, and it's the kind of thing where you could also hire a car in Port Elizabeth and drive along, and I've done that several times. You drive back along to Cape Town. One thing I didn't mention earlier on when I was talking about obviously the attractions of the Cape was not just the flowers and the penguins and the sharks and the shark tonsils, but also obviously wine region and great foods and other such things as well. So yeah, it's a fantastic part of the world, and it's that the garden route, as Brett said, is a fantastic and beautiful scenic part of South Africa, which is lovely to spend some time driving through.
Yeah, absolutely. So last couple of reserve questions. We have got some photography questions, particularly. So someone has asked, would you provide critiques in the evenings if clients want this?
100%. So I will do a couple of talks, first of all, just which would be not just photographic focus, but like I said, I would go into the story of Tandy as well. And then whether it's afternoon or evening, depending on how people feel, it might work better in afternoons because of the focus of the trip with the species that we're going after largely being more active in evening and night. It often works better if we can do something in the afternoon and then go out for an afternoon evening trip, come back, have dinner, and then go for a night drive. If we wait and do critiques and think too much in the evenings, you start to pack the nights, and there will be people on the trip as well who will feel like they're missing out to the chance of seeing caracal or aardvark if we're not going out on a night drive. So I'd probably try and do most of the critique sessions in the afternoons, and there should be plenty of time to be able to do that during the days. And that's the beauty of spending the times at the lodges that we are doing, and also having very small transfer times between lodges. It means that every day there is the opportunity to do that, and we can do that as groups. We can do that one-on-one. That's absolutely fine.
Cool, excellent. So a final couple of questions I'm going to do, otherwise we'll just keep going and going and going.
All right.
But there's another photography one from Derek, which is, would it be possible to do any astrophotography there?
Yeah, 100%. I would say it depends on, of course, on the the cloud cover you can see in this shot here as well, the one in front of you. It just kind of depends really what we are served up at the time. We're there for enough time where we should hopefully get some clear skies, and hey, I'd be up for it. I always am, love doing it. And actually I think I showed you those euphorbia trees early on in the talk, and I think they're a bit like the quiver trees in Namibia in terms of the architecture of them, and I think they can look quite interesting up against the night sky as well. So yeah, there should be plenty of opportunities for doing that. I'd definitely be up for it to anyone who wants to, whether it's photography or even just stargazing. Again, the guides would be very happy to come out with us as well and show you the night sky. But yeah, fingers crossed for the right lighting conditions and moon conditions and things like that. But like I said, being there for a good amount of time, we'll hopefully have a good crack at it. And also the moon phases will at some point be in our favor too.
Excellent, thank you. And finally, I don't know whether you know this one off the top of your head, but we can always find out. Do you know how big the reserve is?
Oh,
no problem if not.
No, it's fine. It's annoying because you know what, I literally, when we were logging on, I was thinking I used to know and I've got it written down somewhere and I didn't check, and I'm not going to say it off the top of my head because I'll get it wrong.
No, that's fine.
But yes,
just trying to
actually, you know what, I'm actually not sure as well how big it is now with the extended area, but it's quite a large area they've added on recently. So to be honest, I'm not sure of the new extended size of it, but it's growing all the time. So keeping up with with their expansion is it's a nice problem to have. So sorry about that, but it's something which we can always follow up with any further details if anyone wants to. But it's also that's easily Googleable, if that's the word.
I've got one more question for you. Sorry,
sure.
Neil.
No, it's fine.
Just someone has been to the Eastern Cape before, to a place called caracal, which I'm not familiar with.
Amakala, yeah.
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 How different is this reserve?
So I have briefly visited Amakala. I don't know it that well. You might know, I mean, Dr. Folds, who I showed you the picture of, who was looking through binoculars onto the plains. He's closely associated with Amakala. And I don't know it, like I said, that well, but I believe Kariega is larger. It has also with the river at Kariega, that's a very unique element in terms of this reserve compared to others in the area as well. Having that extended river frontage and access, and being able to go along the river all the way down to the beach, and then once you're on the beach, have a nice breakfast or lunch or whatever it means, brunch on the beach, and then head back up again. That's pretty unique as well, to go on how many game drives do you do that end up on on the beach with you having breakfast with your toes in the surf. But yes, similar. It shares some similar habitats in terms of the Eastern Cape thickets and those open areas. So similar. It's they're very, very close in terms of proximity to each other. So very similar species. But I think for me, Kariega has that kind of unique family-run feel to it. It has the unique stories of Tandy and the work over 30 years to create this wonderful reserve. So maybe not so much from a biodiversity point of view, that might be sort of different, but I think there's an opportunity here that you would get at Kariega that you wouldn't get anywhere else.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think we will leave it there. Neil, I think
that's fine.
Have a couple of slides at the end that have just got some upcoming talks.
Oh yes, sorry.
Right, no, that's all right.
Oh no, because the poll's up, it's not allowed. There we go. Sorry.
So that's okay. So on screen you can see there is currently a discount code. So if you would like to book the trip, please do quote that. We also have a couple more wildlife discover evenings in the next few days. Well, one this week and another next week, and many more as well beyond that, I should say. But Discover Patagonia this week, and then Discover Namibia at the start of next week. So if you would like to join us, we would love to see you there. Thank you again for coming, particularly so many of you for the first one of the series. We've loved having you along. And thank you so much, Neil, for sharing all your wonderful imagery. Really, really appreciate it. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all the questions, but otherwise we really would go on all night. Hang on.
Well, they would just say feel free, if anyone wants to email me, please do. Sorry, the email's not on the screen, but if you Google Neil Aldridge, it's Conservation Photojournalism is my sort of brand and my website, and you'll find my email address there. But if not, if you wanted to contact the Wildlife Worldwide team, they can always forward things on to me with any questions if you have them. Be happy to answer any more.
Absolutely. So we always say at the end of these talks, if you have any questions and we haven't answered them, please do get in touch and we will do our absolute best to answer them as quickly as possible. So thank you all again. Thank you, Neil. And hopefully we will see you again later this week, and if not, in the next few weeks at least. Thank you very much, and we will see you all soon. Cheers, Neil. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brett. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.